right.
I'm going to run our
Turn the
count.
volume down a little.
Yeah, I'm going to run our countdown. Okay, we are now live. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
So we have apparently decided to do well, I don't guess it's early morning because it's almost 8:45, but we are drinking coffee this time.
Well, I think we are unknowingly showing our hand to the public here.
Exactly. Yeah, and the first thing we're showing them is, A, neither one of us are apparently in the woods or, in my case, on the water.
And that was exactly what I was talking about as being a fair weather hunter. But what I will say is when I came home yesterday evening and I saw that big old bright moon and I watched it till about midnight out there, I was like, you know what, there ain't no way I'm getting up sitting on a cold deer stand when them deer are going to be up all night running. I'll just wait.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. And of course, in my case, with fishing, usually about 3 days either side of the full moon can be good. But again, you got to be there at the right time. Oh, did you notice that we had a 2-minute countdown this morning?
A 2-minute countdown. Yeah, due to popular demand by one of our viewers that we reduce or eliminate the countdown, we modified it a little.
Yeah, and I'm not going to name any names, but since Robert Wright is actually watching this morning, see, Robert, we do actually listen to some of our viewers, and just to accommodate you, we kind of compromised. We're not going to eliminate the countdown. There's a reason for that. But we did cut it down to 2 minutes.
I think he likes the sound of that compromise.
And look there, we have Shannon Brown. She's watching us over coffee, so that's a good thing.
Love me some Shannon Brown.
Oh. And there's Robert Wright.
All right, keep it clean, Robert Wright. This is a family show.
Should be what, and see, no matter what we do, now he wants it down to 1 minute. Well, we'll see. All right, so with that said, let's see. Oh, and we have a comment.
We had a goal of making this show a little shorter, right?
Yes. Yeah, okay, now he said 2 was good, so.
Yeah,
Let's see. we got a
We
comment. Let
listen
me
to
throw this in. We got a comment from Renee, and looks like Renee and David are awake this morning.
Good morning, Miss Renee.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, anyway, just more constructive criticism, but besides the lack of hair on my head. Um, we our videos are a little long, and me and Rex talked about it. And the thing is it's so hard to condense the stuff that we're covering and jumping into. It's just hard. I mean, you miss little details, and we're going to do our best to shorten these a little bit, and we're going to work on that. It may take us a little time, but we're not going to exclude things, right?
Yeah, the truth is there's so much stuff going on that hasn't really been, let's just say, reported or put out there. And so, we're going to try to pick out, one or two topics and stay pretty much focused on those and not go off on too many tangents. Not, that I've ever done that before and, get on my soapbox. So we're going to try to reduce that down if we can. So anyway.
Yeah, and we wanted to try to have a follow-up show, and I think that was the purpose of this one. On our last video, we inadvertently had a little technical problem with that last video and lost a little momentum with it.
Well, yeah, and the good thing was it wasn't Zuckerberg trying to, censor free speech and all that everybody complains about. Technically, it was my fault. I didn't realize that when you post an event to schedule a live, and then if I decided to remove the event, and it like pulled the whole live video, so I had to re-upload it. And so that's why some of you may see where that video was re-uploaded yesterday. So anyway, but luckily we had a backup. First rule of computers.
Oh, I'm fixing to have to. The dog and the cat are going at it.
That's all right. Not too bad. I'm lucky I'm out in my top secret tech bunker man cave, so.
I'm gonna get brought up by the Humane Society when I start throwing things here in a minute.
Yeah. All right. So
we did leave off something on this morning. I did notice on Friends of Cypress Black Bayou that there was some big fish being caught on one of our two lakes. You notice that?
Yes, I did, and I tell you what. Of course, not that any of us fishermen like to brag at all, but this picture is not from this year, so full disclosure, but this was last year on Cypress. John Kyle Pierce and I, John Kyle was the co-angler of the year for the high school league last year, and he called me up one morning. It was almost this time. We were a little bit later, and we went out on Cypress, and took us about an hour and a half to find them, but we absolutely waylaid them on Cypress last year, and it's getting about that time. So yeah, a lot of big fish can be caught this time of the year because they start to bunch up and school up. And they were, like in these pictures, they were running shad, and we were actually catching them in 3 foot of water, so they weren't out deep. And yeah, there's been several others. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna switch the screens back and then see if I can find some of those other pictures that some folks have posted. We'll show those here in a second. And I'm quite sure that there have been a few pretty good sized deer bucks shot or stuck with an arrow at least so far this year.
Yeah, I've been seeing some good deer brought in as well too.
Yeah, let me see if I can find these. Cypress fishing report. And let's see if I can pull up these pictures and then we'll get into it. Let's see. Where did we see those pictures? I thought it was in the Cypress Black Bayou fishing report.
Yeah, it was. I saw it just yesterday evening.
Yeah. Let's see if I can scroll down. I guess I should have been a little better prepared. Let's see. That's September. Hold on. Maybe it was in the Friends of Cypress Black Bayou group. Yep, there we go. All right, let me flip our screen back and then we'll actually get into business. So that's
Yeah,
Nick
look at that.
Allen's right there.
That is a nice fish.
Yes, sir. And of course, well, there's Heath's post griping about the basic redneck duct tape fixing of the signs at Cypress Black Bayou. Of course, I'll try not to get off on that tangent this morning.
We're saving money. What is the problem with that?
Well, the problem is they went out there and actually painted red lines to show you where not to park. And as somebody pointed out in the comments, it's only $5 on weekdays and holidays, folks. Apparently, it's not $5 on weekends because it's not there on their sign. But remember, they do have a camera up in that tree, and they do monitor the camera. So if you don't pay, they're going to come tow you or send the sheriff's department after you. They can't fix the potholes at the top of the ramp, but by golly, they want their $5. And let's see, one more picture. That's Nick DeWolf and his son. So they've been catching some pretty good white perch out there too on Cypress. So.
Or a sack of lay, depending on where you're from.
Yeah. All right. So with all that said, what do we have on the agenda this morning? Now that we've got a pretty good crowd coming in.
Yeah, I think we were going to follow up on some of our show from last week, and we got a little feedback, a little information, and on some questions that were posed. You know, as you recall, I guess we can start off with some of the races, and we'll scurry through those pretty fast. We had a email in regards to the city judge race and whether there was or was not an endorsement by the Fraternal Order of Police of Santi Parks. You want to cover that?
Yeah, I'll go over real quick. As a matter of fact, I'm pulling it up on the screen here. So this is a letter, apparently, from the E.G. Huckabee Lodge number 3 of the Fraternal Order of Police. So it's actually one of the Caddo Parish lodges. And they sent out a letter saying that, yes, they did endorse Santi Parks. And, you know, they've endorsed, I don't know, several other candidates in other races in the past. So, you know, it's kind of like I mentioned in the last show. It's not that Santi was really misleading. He was endorsed by a lodge or chapter of the Fraternal Order of Police. It just happens to be in Caddo Parish, even though this is a Bossier Parish race. I mean, you know. So he was endorsed, just on the other side of the river.
Yeah, so for the voters, you know, if you don't say endorsed by the specific lodge or what have you, any candidate can put up there that just, hey, we were endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, and you wouldn't know the difference if it was from the Fraternal Order of Police of Detroit, the Fraternal Order of Police of, you know, wherever. So why do you think candidates don't put that it's not the organization from, you know, your respective district or area where you run?
Well, I could give you the politically correct answer, but the direct answer is most of the candidates and all that, not all of them, but most of them, like in this case, don't really like to be fully transparent. And see, that's the problem. If Santi would have put on his mail out and all that a lot of us received, that it was the Fraternal Order of Police, you know, Caddo Lodge or Lodge number 3, and maybe he did. I didn't see it. In full disclosure, I saw it on the mailer, but if I'm looking right here, let me just see if I can get this in the camera. That's the actual mailer right there, and it just mentions the Fraternal Order of Police. And not that that's a big deal, really, one way or the other, but it's just one of those little things that's way off in the gray area. And so, anyway,
yeah,
you know.
And in fairness to him, he's not the only candidate that has ever done that.
No, he's not.
We've seen lots of other judicial candidates. I mean, but it seems to be a pattern in political races that, like you said, is kind of gray. I wish folks that were running for office wouldn't gray that line. And, you know, wouldn't do it that way.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to put Renee's comment up here. She said that's wrong not to disclose. And that brings up a pretty good point. You're absolutely right, Renee. If he would have just disclosed that, it's not as big a deal. And, you know, by bringing this up in our show, we're hoping that eventually we can change some of this because, of course, Duke, you've been heavily involved in politics for a long time, and I've been pretty well involved in it, usually kind of the guy that's behind the scenes making things happen. And so we know how this goes, and what we're trying to do is change the way some of our local politicians think and operate.
Yeah, and you know, while we're sitting here talking about it, it was just things that bother me. One just jumped out at me, and I'm fixing to touch a nerve with everybody. Political signs. I recall not long ago seeing a political sign placed on the edge of the roadway on Benton Road where the welcome to the city of Bossier City sign was. And it's in that little right of way. And some campaigns, if they can find an easement or any gray area, they'll go stick signs in all those gray areas. Nobody in Bossier enforces that. I mean, it should be that you put signs on private property, not on public easements, but you put them on private property where you have permission. You don't go sticking them on easements. And that one just eats me up, I'll be honest with you.
Well, yeah, and one more thing on that from my end is what I hate is that after the election, those signs like don't go away. Like they leave them there. There's one that's been up on Shed Road down there. It's like falling down and half rotten from last year's race. So, you know, hey, candidates, go pick up your signs.
Yeah, and having been a candidate, I can tell you for a fact, I had a sign that, you know, you have people that volunteer for your campaign. They go and put signs out. The candidates don't always know what the left hand or the right hand is doing. They should, but it's unfortunate they don't. They can't be everywhere all times. But after it's over with and a problem is brought to your attention or you see it yourself, you should rectify it. I mean, I'll give you an example. One time when I ran, I had a 4x8 sign was taken off of a piece of property. I suspect that the volunteer put it in the wrong place, but rather than get a phone call, it was picked up, taken to a local subdivision in the middle of the subdivision, a big sign, 4x8, and dropped right in the middle of the subdivision.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was politics to make, you know, to make me look bad, but I would personally never do something like that, but it happened.
Yeah, it happens. And you're right, that's the way the politics is played. All right, one more question from a comment here on the Friends of Cypress, or the Fraternal Order of Police. And then, yes, Rusty, we will move on. We're not going to beat the dead horse much longer. So I'm going to add this to the broadcast. This is from Heath Harvey. He says, and Duke, maybe you can answer this real quickly, is there even a Bossier Parish chapter of the Fraternal Order of Police?
There is one in Bossier City. I'm not sure if that goes out to the sheriff's office. I don't think that it does. I think they have their own group. But Bossier City, yes, they do. And in fact, I want to say that in regards to this issue, Bossier City issued the Bossier City chapter of the Fraternal Order of Police issued a statement that they, you know, don't endorse in judicial races. And I can see why, and I don't know that they actually should. That would could arguably go to like the other subject matter we talked about briefly from an anonymous source that sent us some information regarding the Caddo ADA, and you know we've seen the history in Bossier when you've had the local police bodies have issues with folks in the district attorney's office. It hasn't always worked out well for the police officers, and we need to try to protect them as best we can. And I think Bossier City should be commended on not wanting to get in the middle of it.
Right. Okay, what is our next topic to move on to?
Yeah, moving on. I think one of the other subject matters that we had gotten some information on was about the library. I noticed this week that the head, I can't recall her name, but I perused the library Facebook page, and they announced that last week there was a vote to approve moving forward with taking bids for the new construction of the new central library. And I I was curious of whether that was the police jury that decided to do that or whether that was the library board. I don't know that there's a lot of difference between the two.
Well, it seems that they're kind of mixing up and getting intertwined now that, what do they have, like 3 police jury members, maybe, is that correct, on the library board?
There is now 3 police jury members on the library board, so I would argue that the library board is an extension of the police jury.
Yeah, a lot of gray area there. They're kind of mixing or melting together or whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to pull up that real quick. Let's see. Here we go. Ab Lorem. Oh, here's one thing. Let me pull this up on the screen too because it's related to that. So this is the police jury's Facebook post on the ad valorem tax that will be up for renewal Saturday, December 5th, because there is another ballot coming up December the 5th, whether there are runoffs or not, from the upcoming election this week. And it looks like it's the renewal, the 10-year renewal of the tax that generates the funds for the maintenance and operation of the correctional facilities. And let's see, let me scroll on down here. There we go. And there's the one for the plans for a new $9.5 million central library that's going to have a history center. Interesting.
And I was reading a little more. I mean, to the credit of the lady at the library board, they put a lot of information out there and talking about the plans, the revisions, and I noticed that originally they had a budget of $20 million, and that was partly renovating the existing structure, and then since revising that, I think they have an estimate of the new construction down to 10 million. Those numbers kind of make me scratch my head a little bit. How is that possible? And I've emailed them asking some questions. For instance, in the revision of the old library, the remodel of the old library, if I read correctly, they had multi-stories. I wonder if some of the reduction in cost is due to maybe making it a single-story structure now. And I had a question in regards to the square footage of the old structure versus the new structure. So we'll see what feedback we get on that. But I've got a simple question. Maybe you may know the answer to this. Is that dual office holding?
Well, it's interesting. I'd have to pull up the statute, so I'm just going to comment off the top of my head on that. The police jurors do get paid more than just a per diem. Is that correct? Or do you remember?
I think it's structured along the lines of the way the legislature is structured, and I think there is a maximum,
right,
in a year that they can attain. And I'm not sure on the numbers. We might need to research that.
Yeah, it's not like any of them go in to be a police juror or run for state rep or state senator to get rich, because the amount that they're paid is not really that much considering the time that it takes at all. But that maybe could be borderline, because I think they are paid as a police juror. I'm not really sure about being on the library board, so it's kind of a gray area. If the library board, if they're not really paid to do that, And it's kind of a reverse thing because if they're not paid to be on the library board, then as a police juror, assuming they're paid to do that, they can make decisions that would affect the library board. But since they're not paid, it's kind of the reverse of what's going on with the dual office holding at the Cypress district. So that's a little bit of a gray area. I'd have to dig into that, or I don't know, maybe if Shannon Brown's still watching, maybe she could chime in on that if she's kind of paid any attention to this at all. Interesting question, but I think it's kind of reversed, so I'm not 100% sure on that.
You know, but kind of I would argue that, let's see, I see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members of the library board, and now there's 3 sitting police jury members on that board, so arguably that's majority of the members. So whatever decisions are made.
I'm going to pull up the library board's page. I'm going to move my little deal out of the way where we can see it because Renee Hall had a question, said which 3 police jury members have been appointed to the library board. And so this is the library board's page. The incoming members for October 2020 are Bob Rutherton, Doug Rimmer, and Charles Gray. So there are now 3 police jury members on that library board that basically appointed themselves in the meeting, in the police jury meeting. So there was, I guess, a quick vote on it, but they basically appointed themselves. That's just a little kind of sort of sketchy, but maybe not. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and we talked about her name is Carolyn Logan. Full disclosure, I've never met her. I don't know her. I know you don't know her, never met her or talked to her as well. And in what you just pulled up there, it clearly says at their October 21st meeting, the police jury dismissed Carolyn Logan due to residency discrepancies. She's been on there for, I think it was 36 or 38 years, and it's never been an issue until now that we're going to start construction. I think there's a connection there. Maybe some of these folks didn't agree or wasn't going to agree in the direction that things were going, or the way that maybe, I don't know. I'm asking that question, but let's see if I can, I want to share something here.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and do your little share screen deal. All right, and let me see if I can assign that over. There we go. Oh, what is this?
I don't know. What could that have to do with the library system?
Gosh, I don't know. First thing, it looks like a pretty fancy gadget, and that kind of looks like maybe 220 and Benton Road.
Yeah, that's where it is, but those are all over the parish now. I don't know if folks in Moser have even noticed that. They're everywhere.
Yeah, and honestly, I hadn't paid attention to it. I see the little camera, and they're not really cameras, the little detectors, traffic control detectors that are up generally on top of the poles near the actual red lights, and those are used to help control the red lights when they time. But this looks like some kind of reader. Is that what that is?
It's some kind of reader. If I didn't know any better, I'd see that box below and I would think that was some kind of cellular transmitter, and perhaps it's transmitting data somewhere. It could be stored, like in a library? Library store data?
Yeah, obviously, there's Ed Burchett. He says they read license plates. Bingo, correct answer. But the question is, who are they reading the license plates for? Where is that data going? And how does that tie into the library?
How does that? It's beyond me how that could tie into the library. I don't know, but a little bit of information came our way and says that it is related, right?
Yes, and related in the sense of what they're going to do maybe with the old library building, maybe?
Now, what I want to know is are we saying that this is a bad idea?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Because look, the truth is, people, I'll do a little quick tangent, but make sure and rein me back in. So when Google first did their Street View, where they show people's houses, everybody went berserk. Oh, it's an invasion of privacy. No, seeing your house from a public street is completely, by definition, public. And the same thing with these license plate readers. When you're driving down the road, you're on a public road paid for with public tax dollars. And, we can argue about whether we should actually have to have license plates and all that sort of thing, but it is what it is. So I'm not totally opposed necessarily to the license plate readers, but I haven't seen this publicized in the newspaper or in the news really anywhere that I can remember. So that's the problem I have with it.
Yeah, I saw a little discussion. Maybe it was on social media in the past, and I'm like you. I'm not saying that there's anything egregious or evil or wrong that's going on here. But what I would really like to know is that if somebody is taking my data and they're storing my data when I travel down this road or that road and logging the times of when I'm normally going to be here or there or where's all that information? I mean, who has access to all that information? Where's that information go? And is there any way for that information to be used, other than for a legal purpose?
Yeah, I mean, look, of course, I support our police department, sheriff's department, and of course the fire department, all that. But the fact is, data can be used like that for purposes that it wasn't originally intended to be used for. And I'm not accusing anybody in our law enforcement of doing that. But the fact is it's there. And again, it goes back to transparency. I mean, I'll dig back, but I just don't remember off the top of my head any real news generation from having these license plate readers and other things up there. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add a comment up here from Sean Riddle. And she says they haven't decided what they're doing with the old library. Usually the readers are linked to stolen car searches, insurance coverage, etc. And that's interesting that she says they haven't decided what they're doing with the old library. So maybe it could be tied to that. We'll see. We have had some information sent to us, but Heath, to answer your question, he says basically, what are we getting at? Heath, we got to do a little more digging based on some information we received. All right, moving on. I'm going to switch us back over to here. Okay, so what's our next topic of discussion?
Yeah, so we made a connection there of where little information is flowing to us, and some thanks to the viewer who is feeding us a little information in that regard. We'll be watching for a little bit more. I had put a note that we were going to talk about, I think a lot of our problems is the general fact that some of our governmental bodies, somebody told us that a lot of the business is taken in committee rather than out in the regular meetings. The business is done in the committee meeting, and then they just come to the regular meeting, and then they just rubber stamp whatever it is, basic chronology of whatever direction, issue, or they're going to do. And I think what we're getting at is perhaps that these members of these governing bodies need to have those discussions out in the open air, public, and ideas for the public to have input on it and discuss. And it's the same thing that you've been fighting and digging into on the Cypress Black Bayou thing, right?
Well, yeah, and basically I'm going to just kind of summarize full disclosure. I only play a lawyer on Facebook. I'm not really an attorney at all. But the way the law reads is that, public bodies or elected officials, they're going to see each other out in public. They may go to lunch together, dinner together, hang out together, whatever. Maybe they fish together or whatever. But they can't make any decisions in those chance meetings. The real decisions have to be made at the public meeting and, has to be available for public discussion and all that sort of thing. But what happens is these, a lot of this gets basically decided, not officially, but gets pretty much decided before the meetings, and the meetings become just a dog and pony show just to satisfy the open meetings law and, allow some public commentary. Sometimes you get some public comments that, are unexpected, but again, it's still pretty much a dog and pony show a lot of times.
Yeah. And I know we wanted to keep this short. We apologize again, but again, it's hard just to, there's just so many connections here and things to talk about. But one of the other things that we wanted to generally talk about, and it's a subject coming up, with 2 more points, Rex, unless you want to go a little further. I noticed that the police jury put out that on December 16th, they're going to have a public hearing scheduled for consider of approval on new rates for the Consolidated Waterworks Sewer District.
Really?
As you know, and I'm gonna throw him a bone, Barry Butler. Barry Butler was on the police jury quite a while back, I think maybe 2010 or something, when considerations on the Consolidated Waterworks Sewer District were being considered. And Barry was on top of this stuff then, and I think he's still on top of it today. I noticed that he had been making some posts and commenting a little bit, and I think perhaps the Consolidated Waterworks Sewer District, I hate to say upside down because I really don't know, but I think that's where it's heading, and that they're going to have to raise rates. Potentially raising rates to the potentially 4 times the rate it is now. And so
really,
if you're a part of that Consolidated Waterworks Sewer District, how do you go from having a rate now to having a rate that's 4 times potentially what it is now? Somebody somewhere did some bad math.
Well, yeah, and that, look, the truth is, even as conservative as I am, and I'm pretty sure you probably feel kind of the same way, look, I'm too lazy to ride a horse, and so I like to drive down the roads, and that's a function of government, and it takes a certain amount of money to do that. So I'm not 100% opposed to taxes, because, again, I like to use the public roads and streets. But here's the thing. When you have groups out there, and I'm not going to mention any names and beat a dead horse on that, but when you have entities out there that either try to raise rates, 40% in one shot, or like we saw last fall, raise something 100%, literally double it, and now you've got these water and sewer rates that are potentially going up quite a bit. That's the problem, is trying to do it all in one shot like that. That can be a shock to the average taxpayer and voters' pocketbooks.
Yeah, and Barry Butler, as I understand, he warned even way back in 2010 that they would face a shortfall, and that there would be consequences down the road. Are we there at that crossroads today? I saw one of his posts, and it was something to the effect of that there was $7 million budgeted for the first couple of phases, and then it ultimately was cost $14 million. So when you're looking at it from that standpoint, then you jump back over to the library and we see where there was an originally a $20 million budget, and now it's cut down to a $10 million budget. are we looking at something similar? And I just got a text from someone, and they said that they understand that the central library just had a renovation within the last year or so. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but why would you renovate or spend money if you know that you're fixing to build a whole brand new facility?
Well, I can answer that with one acronym. OPM. Other people's money. And so the problem is that whether it's the police jury or, as we've seen, a lot with the Cypress district up there, they're dealing with other people's money. Yes, the police jurors are taxpayers too. I get that. But, they view it as their money, but it's really not. It's really all of our money, property owners, people that buy things, sales tax, the ad valorem tax that the business owners have to pay. And sometimes they forget that they're really dealing with our money, not their money. And it becomes easy to spend. You're right. Why would you renovate something knowing full well that within a couple of years you were looking at building a whole new facility? That's just asinine and stupid.
Yeah, it is. Maybe some of them would be willing to come on and explain and answer some of these questions for us, for the public. I mean,
well,
that would be.
Maybe these 3 new police jurors who have basically appointed themselves to the library board would like to come on and actually explain that. That would be an interesting show.
That'd be fun. We can get them on. So wrapping this thing up, we said we weren't going to keep it long. I hope everybody in the deer stand's warmed up now. Their blood's pumping a little bit hearing about their tax dollars.
Yeah, no kidding.
But we wanted to talk about getting the folks out there to help us a little bit, right? We wanted to offer some encouragement for them to help us.
Yeah, so this past week we've had, quite a few emails and some Facebook messages come in and all that. That's great because that gives us, directions to look, and some of it's actually been very interesting information. A lot of people, though, of course, don't want their name associated with this information, and we can understand that. Like I said last show, it's a shame that people are literally afraid to point out something that our local government is involved in, good or bad. It's a shame that people have that fear, but if you've got some information you want to share with us or something you think is worth looking into, kind of down here at the bottom of the screen, but you can send an email to BossierWatch@gmail. That is not anonymous, but you can send an email to that. Reach out on Facebook Messenger. If you want to share something completely anonymous, go to ProtonMail.com, create a free account, use a random email address for the name. It's completely free, takes like 2 or 3 minutes. And email us at BossierWatch@ProtonMail, and that is completely anonymous. Again, don't put your name or phone number or anything like that in the email or any identifying information, and share what you want, and we'll be glad to take a look at it.
Yeah, and so one of the other things that we wanted to do was we wanted to encourage folks to invite friends, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, make sure and like and share this. Because as we're building and all that, and more elected officials around here are becoming aware of the show, and there are a lot of them out there that know about it. Some of them that kind of watch it or watch little segments, but you won't see them commenting or liking or following the page, but they are paying attention because some of them honestly are worried about what we might say. They typically, government folks don't like to have a light shown on what they're doing with other people's money.
And there are some good folks that are out there. And here's the thing: what we're doing enable them. They may be sitting on the police jury, the school board, city council, so any of these boards, and they want to speak up, but they almost feel like they're ganged up on, and they don't feel like they have any backing to be able to speak up. And this platform right here is going to hopefully give them a little bit of firepower to be able to sit in their spine and speak up, with what they may feel.
Yeah, I'll kind of close out with this. I had a police juror make a comment to me, actually off the record, so I'm not going to say who it was. And his comment was basically that if he goes against the grain, then he doesn't get included in anything else the police jury does. Now, I might argue that, well, that's the whole reason that you shouldn't go with the grain on everybody and stand alone and stand behind the people that elected you, kind of thing. But it goes to the point of, yeah, sometimes, whether it's the police jury, maybe this library board, even the Cypress district, the city council, it doesn't matter. A lot of times, some of the people that we elect, you know, they get in there and they feel like they can't speak up because all of a sudden they'll get cut out of things and not have information shared in a timely manner and all this stuff that people do. The point is, you're right. Bossier Watch isn't just about calling out stupid things that our public officials do, and there's quite a few of those. But it can also be for sharing positive things that are getting done. So anybody that wants to come on is welcome with me.
And with that said, some of y'all may have noticed behind me, there is a big old Donald Trump sign. Trump 2020, no more some kind of something. Anyway, I had a little bit of an idea. Let me back out of the way there.
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of zoom in just a little bit.
As you can see, that chair is strategically placed.
Right.
So,
good, because I don't have pixelation available here. So
I had a phone call this past week, and someone was asking me, to our Democrat watchers, and if you hate Donald Trump, I'm sorry, this is the best we can do on short notice. But for everybody who likes Donald Trump, here we go. Had somebody call this week and wanting to know where they could get a Donald Trump sign. Their local homeowners association has allowed political signs to be put in yards for years, but all of a sudden this year, Donald Trump sign became a problem, and told them, you know, I don't know where you can get any except order them offline. Around here, you're not going to see those here. So you and I came up with an idea. We were going to kind of boost our exposure a little bit, and so we decided, what better idea than to give away a sign or something like that. So we've got this flag, Trump 2020 flag, that we want to give away to somebody that's watching the show.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. Can I participate in this, or am I excluded from the giveaway?
I think me and you probably need to cut ourselves out.
Dang it. All right, so how are we going to do the giveaway?
Well, since we're kind of doing it on the fly a little bit, my idea was we're going to have to set a cutoff date. And I think maybe the cutoff date should be, let's give it to election night, after the election. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm typing that up in our little thing. Cutoff is election night. Let's see how this looks. There we go. I'll cover up our names, but that's okay. All right, so what do people need to do to be able to be eligible to win?
So what we want people to do is invite friends to like Bossier Watch, and ideally folks of Bossier Parish, which we're not going to stay there, but we want people to invite people to like and follow our page, particularly like, and then those people to come on to this video and tag who invited them to like the show.
Perfect. Let's see. And tag the friend who invited you. All right, so I think I got this typed up right. Okay, so basically we're going to cut this off election night, but invite a friend to like and follow Bossier Watch on Facebook, and then comment on this video, the new person tagging the friend who invited you to like the page. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we will randomly draw, and somebody's going to get a trump, no more, whatever the wonderful word there is, Trump flag, which would be great.
Yeah, and I think that would be fun.
Good. Well, I'll make sure and make a comment as Bossier Watch on this feed after we close out here in just about a minute or two, and kind of put the rules of the contest up, and then folks can share that. I may draw up a little graphic for it or something like that. Okay, I got to do one more thing because I've now had 2 people, including my wife, request this. So let me go back to picture in picture. Whoops. Let's see here. Let's go there. There we go. All right, I've got to remind everybody, this is actually going really well. We're at about 100 people that have signed the petition digitally. This is for the Taxpayers for a Better Government group. We put together this digital petition, and go to bossierwatch.org, click on the petition. You can fill out and sign. We're at, like I said, about 100 folks that have signed it digitally right now, and a couple to a few hundred that have signed paper and ink wise. So this petition is actually moving forward. It appears that it's not just disgruntled landowners from Cypress and Bayou that have a problem with the Cypress board. It appears to be a lot of folks. So I want to remind everybody of that. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of comments about people who have actually been to the park complaining, about just generally how they were treated and how things went when they visited the park.
Yeah, so I want to remind everybody about that. All right, anything else you want to mention as we close out?
No, just everybody out there hunting and fishing, be safe, and good luck. Go Tigers.
Sounds like a plan. I'm going to get another cup of coffee.
Have a good day, brother.
See ya.